Jesus Christ! Guys, listen, I may have been wrong about the whole 4 maps thing. Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be doing a roundup of current stuff going on, which there is a damn lot. There was a stream from ArenaNet, there was a big patch in game, there was a lot from the world of data mining, and a new blog post that went out, so we will rush through. But first, I really want to focus on that thing in the title that I just talked about. That is the size of the first raid coming into Guild Wars 2. As you can see here on this image, that Shaman revealed on his most recent data mining post. The raid instance is massive. So we had heard, yes, very recently, 2 days ago, that the first raid was somewhere north of the Silver Waste and Verdant Brink. I kind of thought it would go sideways across to the edge of the map, but no, this is heading north. This is heading really far north too. Now, this is obviously the super placeholder version, kind of like what we see with World vs. World Borderlands at the moment, and eventually they'll do the art up and they'll make this a lot more seamless. And you can actually see that the first wing of the raid, which we've heard specifically is like 4 encounters, I think, and 3 bosses, is really just these smaller areas to the south down here. This is what we'll be playing this coming weekend with the new squad UI, with all that new badass stuff. So actually not too much is going to be playable, but for the actual map size, the amount of map that they've apportioned out is fairly huge. I'm a little disappointed, I must say, from this, about the location of the Bloodstone. So we did also, as you can see on screen right now, have another screenshot data mined of the raid loading screen, it would seem, showing us the Bloodstone. I think it's very clear that it is. On one of the Twitch streams, sadly I didn't get to see this live, but we were mentioned on one of the Twitch streams from the devs again, specifically on the raid map. They were talking about where this was going to be located, and it was like, oh, Wooden Potatoes will know what's up to the north there, and come on, we tweeted out a long time ago. It's the Bloodstone, right? But the sad thing is, this doesn't line up. ArenaNet have been really reckless when it comes to lining stuff up ever since Drytop and Silver Waste came in. They're really not that great at it anymore, nothing like with the original game. So the Bloodstone should actually be somewhere around here. Okay, but actually, apparently, it's going to be in one of these little chambers here, probably this central room here, just where my cursor's currently over. So, I'm not sure what I really feel about that, but hey, stuff can move over time. There's nothing that says that the Bloodstones themselves won't necessarily move. In fact, there's a suggestion that there might be a chunk of, or a shard of a Bloodstone or something going on in Divinity's Reach in the throne room. So, these things can move. They will have had something happen to them, especially since it seems like there's some kind of white mantle activity in the raid. But what really excites me, okay, what's really important is this actually addresses my main criticism of Heart of Thorns. Or one of my 3 main criticisms, and specifically this is the scope of the expansion. I have consistently been telling you guys, it doesn't matter how deep or big or incredible these maps are, if all we're getting are 4 maps that basically equate to Ratasum's backyard, it's going to take us years to explore anywhere remotely interesting in this franchise. Like the stuff we can see on the current world map, but then future continents too at that. And that was a really sour thought for me. But you look at this now, and it seems, you know, coupled with the guild halls that are coming in, which also could be appearing on the world map, and the raid, you know, this is a substantial amount of space. And this will be a lot more linear, of course, but this does allow us to map a lot more things out. It may seem fairly arbitrary to you guys, but this is going to fill in those gaps on the map, and it's going to allow us to push into more regions. So we get these really dense, big in scope, open world PvE maps, and then we'll be able to cover a lot of distance in things like raids as they drop them in too. Couple the size of this raid, okay, once it's eventually fully out, with news that they're going to, you know, drop random wings into various places already anywhere they like in the world, and suddenly a lot of those little gaps, you know, the gap between Sparkfly Fen and Timberline Falls, those little gaps suddenly seem like they can potentially be put in the game. You know, that mountainous region is a sizable chunk of the world map. What could they ever put there? Could they randomly add a dungeon there? Well, in the past, that never seemed like it would be possible. Could they add a whole world map there? No. But now, think about it. They could add a raid wing there, just as a one-off, as they've explained, that can talk about some interesting story. And what do you know? Suddenly you've got an area in the Shiver Peaks with great, massive mountainous peaks, but also we're allowed to use Heart of Thorns gliding there because it's been designed in that way, and we get these cool experiences that fill in the map. This is excellent. Of course, it remains to be seen how much of this, when it's all out, will actually be playable. You know, maybe this big square block, eventually it's not going to be as filled in as I think it's going to be, but this is a really good step, and it does absolutely address one of the things I was a little concerned about with the franchise, so that is great. Since we're talking about data mining stuff, let's continue on with that topic. Here are a bunch of elite specialization icons. We heard a long time ago when they first revealed the system, the professions would get unique icons, and then we didn't hear anything about it for ages, and actually, a part of me began to question whether they were going to come in the game, because as you add more of these icons, this is more bloated vote for new players, the icon is a really easy way to tell generally what you're up against. Now, you can make an argument as to how useful that really is. You're not going to know whether a Necro is a Power Necro or a Condi Necro just from looking at their icon, for example. But when you, say, start adding these, and then we get another generation of elite specializations and another generation, for a new player to come into Guild Wars 2, they suddenly have tons of new icons to learn, and that could be, you know, a barrier to entry. So I was thinking maybe they might have got rid of it, but it seems like they haven't. We do have the icons here. Now, somebody did kind of theoretically look through this list and say what they thought each was, and I have to say I think I agree. So I'm thinking we're looking at the Berserker on top, the Clock for the Chronomancer, the Boot for the Daredevil, the Herald here, most possibly, because it's kind of like a shieldy looking icon, and we know that they get the shield. Below, we've got the Druid. Druid, the sun kind of moon symbol, doesn't fit too well, but hey, what else are they going to do? Dragon Hunter, common, there's a Dragon Reaper, common, that's Reaper Shroud. Scrapper, it's some kind of a cog, and then that just leaves us with Tempest, and this looks kind of like, you know, a Vortex or a Whirlwind. So I'm absolutely on board with that, and this seems to be the icons. As to, and then we got the small icons here, which are going to be the more likely ones we see. As to the criticism I just gave, maybe in 3 years or so, when we do have multiple generations of elite specializations, all they have to do is a Guild Wars 1 style system, where to the left of this Reaper icon, you know, you've got Necromancer, and then the Reaper icon appears next to it. So you can still tell whether you're against a Necromancer, and then you can see how they're elite specialized in the future. It's just for the first set, they don't really need to do the double icon thing, so that approach eventually could be employed. Some other data mining news, and I'll cap this section off with something very big, so do keep watching, because if you are inclined to enjoy spoilers, I can point you to something you might really enjoy to do with the raid. We've also had a map showing the canopy for Beta Weekend Event 3, which absolutely seems like it could be a part of Verdant Brink. I've been wondering what they were doing for a while. It seems like we're just not getting the roots at all, and I'm fine with that. I wonder whether we get the original Beta Weekend Event 1, Beta Weekend Event 2, both together, plus the canopy. That would allow us to interact with a lot of the different outposts at once, and then actually push the meta event. It seems that the adventures are actually kind of being tied behind not just day-night as they currently are. You can only do adventures during the day. When it's night, you can't do them. It seems like now they're kind of being locked off as you push the meta further along. So as you push the Pact Encampment tier to tier 1, you get an adventure. If you push it to tier 2, you get another one. Tier 3, you get another one. And that's kind of an incentive there for people who want to do the adventures to participate in the map-wide stuff as well, which is important, because when you think about the way these are structured, can you imagine having a Silver Waste trying to do the breach while half of the players are dicking about doing something you don't care about, right? They want everyone on the same page to push stuff together. The counter argument to that is something Matt Visual addressed on one of the recent podcasts, where he kind of expressed, you know, if they're going for this super Meat Boy style, quick to repeat, get in there, try again, get in there, try again, and again, and again, it kind of sucks to then just be completely locked out, and it seems to go counter to what adventures are all about. But I think maybe giving people that forced break is going to be quite important to the design, so we don't get too frustrated. We'll see how it goes, though. Some other little strings, I won't go over all the news for you guys, that I found quite interesting. It seems that the first story step is called Torn from the Sky, which I don't believe was the name of the original instance. They have expressed recently, and the mining does reflect this now, that my plan to play Heart of Thorns without gliding, so I could get that one perspective of the jungle, and then I could get another perspective of the jungle later when I finally get gliding. And, you know, you'll never be able to go back once you unlock gliding. You've got it for good. So I really wanted to get that experience of the jungle without it. Unfortunately, that is not going to be possible. They are forcing us to take in gliding tier 1, so you can at least glide through the jungle. Force everyone to get it. And after that point, then you can branch out a little bit. And I could see why they're doing this, I guess. That first tier really isn't too difficult to get, so I don't think anyone will begrudge them for the grind. And gliding is just so intrinsic to the content they have created. I have the idea of trying to cater content to people who don't have it at all was probably limiting in some ways. It's better to just assume everyone has gliding, and then you can do maps as, you know, wide and wild as you like. And they actually play into this idea a bit further too, because it seems like there are certain mastery tracks. Currently, when we go to Verdant Brink in the Beta Weekend events, we can pick any mastery track we like, but they're actually going to be tied behind other things. So, for example, you won't get the New Hawk mastery track until you actually travel deeper into the jungle and hit a new map. When you hit that new map, then you get the mastery. And that forces that kind of Metroidvania experience on people, where you'll travel through Verdant Brink seeing stuff that's only available to people who have trained New Hawk stuff, but you can't train the New Hawk stuff until you go deeper into the jungle and actually learn about its secrets, which is absolutely what this system needs, and I'm really excited about that kind of thing. I expressed to you guys that I think getting jumping mushrooms is far too quick, way too quick, and I'd love the idea of getting it really late, and I think this is kind of in line with that. Some other things, some new Halloween dyes were mined. We do, of course, know that Halloween is launching with Heart of Thorns, which is going to be really interesting. I could be like total hipster level and just participate in pure Halloween content for the first day of Heart of Thorns instead of actually play the expansion. Right, guys? You'd be happy to see content about that, right? Everyone will be talking about HOT and doing all the streams on HOT and stuff, and I'll just be playing Halloween. Guys? Right? I'll cater to those of you who don't buy the expansion. Okay, fair enough. I'm probably not going to do that. The next thing that really struck to me was they've got some lore for random critters around in HOT. Now, we know that Guild Wars 2 doesn't have a bestiary. They cut the feature with, you know, the lore books around the world. So why is there random little bits of lore information about stuff like pocket raptors and smoke scales and stuff? Well, the only thing I can really think is that this is the text that appears with the new ranger pets when you select them. That's like the little bit of flavor lore you get about those. And so what's interesting then is there's not just flavor lore on the 5 known pets we have, but there's actually flavor lore on a couple of beetle species and pocket raptors. So the original Druid stream told us that rangers were getting 5 pets. Is the truth that we're actually getting 8 pets? Because there's 2 beetles on there and then the pocket raptors. Having a pocket raptor as a ranger pet would be pretty cool, but then their strength really is in numbers, so I wonder how that would work. Would it be a bit like the hyena, where your F2 is summon more pocket raptors? We shall see. Alright, and lastly for the data mining, let's swing back to the raids. Now, you guys may have seen a video I did recently where I was talking about ideas I had to make dungeons more engaging. I proposed a gambit people could toggle on that meant if you got defeated, you were defeated, and that was it. Well, there seems to be something similar for raids. So 2 key pieces of information. First, we heard that the way they determine whether you're in combat or not is much stricter now. So if anyone basically, it sounds like, is fighting a boss, if you're in any of these encounters, you're like stuck in combat. There's no like moving far away and breaking combat. You are stuck in combat. You're not going to be able to break during that little encounter, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is that they've now confirmed if someone gets defeated, there is no hard resing. This is like PvP where you can't press F to res a defeated body. You can still help people rally and pick them up while they're in down state, but defeated, dead is dead. A lot of people are freaking out about this, making out like this is some huge game changer. Actually, I think compared to like the way fractals work, and even dungeons, you kill stuff so quickly anyway. If someone gets defeated, you just leave them, and then you just finish it, and you unlock the waypoint, and you move on. For fractals, there are some situations where people will break out of combat, and then you'll quickly like res. There's the Mytrin fight where people have Ellen Keel res her outside of the room. I'm curious whether that kind of thing will be available in raids. But in general, if someone gets defeated already in a lot of our more difficult skewed content, you just kind of leave them as it is. So I don't think this is some huge game changer. It's not the same thing really as I was proposing. It's not as extreme. I don't think it's as huge as people are saying, but it's a really good step, and it gives me a bit more confidence that these things will actually be quite difficult. There was word of a Veil Guardian. Of course, some of these boss names have already been heard actually through the grapevine and through the Twitch streams that we've heard. There was some weapons mined. Check out these weapons, guys. For real. This thing here is an axe that's kind of in the same style as like a katana we saw a while ago, but specifically, this thing is a great axe, except it's actually a hammer. So great axes aren't coming to the game, but it seems like some kind of a reward for the first raid, and you can run around with what appears to be a great axe. I'm not sure how I feel. Like, it's obviously badass and exciting. It's really cool. But let me ask you guys a question. Do you think this is, and there is an argument for this, do you think this is the nail in the coffin for great axes anytime soon? Because the point that they do a hammer that looks like a great axe kind of is like saying, all right, we're not actually going to add great axes. Because then when we go into a world where they add great axes, you wouldn't just be able to look at someone and tell, are they wielding a great axe or a hammer? Like, it blurs the lines weirdly. I don't know whether I really subscribe too much to that idea, but it's just a cool skin, and I'm looking forward to having that. That looks like definitely a very acceptable reward from these raids. There's also the Shield of the Lion, a very iconic shield from GW1, most famously wielded by Churai Ossa, and that's going to be coming as well, and looks really distinct and really actually badass too. Alright, to finish off, and I'll just say this the once, Tyria 3D, a website we did a full series on, has always, for a long time now, had spoilers for Verdant Brink. I've never done a video on it. I've refused to do like super spoilery stuff on the channel, and I'm still refusing to do that. However, I will let it be known that this was updated by request timeout, and should you go there once you've got the correct patch of the game now, you can explore the raid. The raid is now explorable in Tyria 3D. There's been no comments from Arena that are not really happy with this fact. So I would rather personally not share it out with you guys, but I am letting you know that it absolutely does exist now. You guys know where the website is. It will be in the description down below. Next, I want to talk quickly about the patch that came into the game today. This was a large balance patch, absolutely not as big as the specializations patch, not as big of a game changer as I thought it was going to be. At TwitchCon, it sounded like they gave us just a handful of changes, and those were all huge changes. But really, they gave us like the cream of the crop, okay? So there are big changes for all classes. I will go mostly over Elementalists here and give you guys a link to the other ones if you want really detailed looks, but I'll go over the really main stuff. Sigils of Air have now been fixed. So these have been broken for the longest time, all right? Both the Major and the Superior had the same cooldown. It was basic, and you could double up on them, basically, as well. So people used to just run double air. Well, now they've been fixed, so the air sigil is finally, and this has taken a long time, okay, guys? Since launch, this has been the stupid thing that ArenaNet consistently got wrong. Finally, the sigil of air is balanced against the sigil of fire. What do you know? So there's that. They have standardized the Frost Aura effect. Frost Aura used to stack duration. I guess through their testing on raids, they realized if they added enough Tempests who were auramancing the hell out of stuff, they could pump out tons of Frost Aura, and they wanted to nip that in the bud early. Kind of makes me sad, because I'm even less excited for Tempest. However, very briefly to look at Elementalists for 1 second before we come back to it, Auramancers, actually now, they have a trait which shares auras out in Water Attunement. That previously was a 360 radius, so the radius of that was something around... 360 radius, I think, is like a chill field on the staff for Elementalists. That is all the way up to now a 600 radius. Much bigger. This is the kind of thing I'm actually really excited to see, because it allows people to still move sort of generally together to support one another and share boons and beneficial effects to one another without having to stack on, like, basically a dime, right? And I think, you know, if they slowly push stuff like that to have wider ranges, I'm pretty interested. So that's actually another buff to Tempest in the way I would want to run Tempest, so I'm pretty excited about that. That's a huge range, guys. 600 radius is massive. The other big sort of generic change that we saw with balance was the Vampirism runes. As they mentioned at TwitchCon, you can't use your unique profession mechanic with this. I think, honestly, unless I'm mistaken here, this affects mostly thieves who will steal to, you know, break, basically, and to peel away from fights while they're in vampirism form. Or necromancers used to see big benefit of this as well, because they could vampirism form, and then they could toggle into Death Shroud and continue fighting while invulnerable. That's now been disabled for all professions. So, to talk a little bit about Elementalists, I already discussed the way that they tried to nerf DD, and how I believe that they're trying to nerf DD, but really they're just nerfing at the same time a lot of the alternate playstyles. After the patch, there were scepter buffs. Now, the main scepter buff is that Dragon's Tooth is now ground targeted. Oh, yes! Which is great quality of life and does add a little bit more skill cap and play to playing a scepter build, but is definitely not the be-all and end-all. The other buffs, what were they? They were pathetic. It's like the auto attack, which is basically a Condi attack with no base damage, does now 33% more base damage. So it's 33% more of nothing. ArenaNet is still basically nothing. It was terrible. Barely any change at all. And the 2 in water now does like 1 more stack of vuln. And again, does a tiny, weeny little bit more damage. Scepter is really in the exact same place. I did try, and you might see some of the footage here, playing some Scepter bursty stuff. I used to really enjoy playing glassy Scepter stuff, Fresh Air specs, or even before Fresh Air existed. And I just cannot enjoy it anymore, guys. The really sad thing was a lot of other professions got their buffs, and they all feel a lot more ample than ours. I just cannot enjoy my time in PvP. I think I have a real problem where basically, if I try and play on my Elementalist, I get focused because I'm wooden potatoes. I'm put into higher brackets because I've always played a lot of PvP on my Ellie. You know, I have thousands of wins on that character. And if I try and run anything that's non-meta at all, I just get destroyed, and it's just generally not fun anymore. I have a lot more fun in PvP running like super meta stuff that other classes have access to. So, you know, for a joke, and you might see footage here as well, glyphs, a couple of the glyphs had their cooldowns reduced. So I tried to run like a boony glyph staff build, which I accept is stupid even in concept. But, you know, you just get smashed, and you just end up feeling sour about things. So that's kind of my issue with Ellie right now. And the other big thing, of course, with Elementalist, line casting was addressed. They fixed this on Meteor Shower and Ice Bow. That doesn't mean it's gone from the game altogether, guys. You can still line cast a lot of other abilities, like Engineer Grenades and so forth, but those are the really potent ones. And again, I've discussed my feelings on this before. I don't think it's a big deal. It's not a big deal. It was never a big deal. But, you know, it was unintended functionality, and it's been nerfed, and rightly so. To gloss very briefly over some of the other professions, the main things I noticed was you obviously had the Necro buffs, which were fantastic, already discussed. There was actually a fairly substantive pistol buff for Thief. I still don't think we're going to see it be, you know, used a lot, but it was a nice start. Elixirs for Engineers, I've seen a lot of people taking advantage of. Mesmer Sword auto attacks are not quite as terrible as they always were. And over for the Ranger, we saw the condition damage application on a lot of pets. So I've actually seen people running, my gosh, a Black Mower in PvP. I haven't played it myself, so I don't know how useful it is right now, but hey, we've seen a little bit of variety in there right now. Outside of profession balance, the patch didn't really add very much. It changed Blackline keys to get rid of stuff like boost enchantment powder and basically all the crappy stuff they dropped. And finishers that are tradable in the TP are now dropping in Blackline chests, which people absolutely called a few months ago when they did, or, you know what, even just 1 month ago, where they brought all the finishers out on the TP and said, buy them now, because they're going to be going away. And everyone's like, yeah, they're just going to add them to the Blackline chest. They totally did. But they're more rewarding to open now, and that is good. That is absolutely... I can't really think of much in those chests anymore that you just feel really terrible getting out of them, so that's nice. And then an undocumented change, probably one of my favorites, allies on your minimap who are in your guild now appear in yellow or gold. So if you're wandering around like Queensdale and you see a gold icon on your map, you know that gold player is someone in your guild and you can identify them easily. It does kind of break some hide-and-seek games that guilds play, but I think that's really fun and that's pretty nice. Last of all, there was a blog post talking about the squad UI. If you didn't catch this stream, I really glossed over it earlier on in the week. This thing is incredible, like truly incredible. It can display up to 50 other players, like their health bars and stuff in the top left corner for you. You can drop people into subgroups or large groups. You can broadcast messages that don't just appear in chat box to people if you're the commander. You can broadcast them to the middle of people's screens. You can send individual messages to each individual subgroup within your squad. You can have a lot more control over how you organize your people. This is useful for world versus world commanders, for people who want to raid, for people who want to take on the big bosses in the open world, even for people who like run chest farms in the Silver Waste, or who are going to run, you know, unique champ farms with the new map bonus reward system that we're seeing with Heart of Thorns. Like, you put these two systems together, okay? People haven't thought about that, but once those two systems together, anyone listening to this video right now, you could be that guy that ends up being like this pretty cool commander who sets up this awesome freaking squad, spreads all these people out. You have your little group for your mesmers who port people to the different bosses so that everyone can get around. You can set so much stuff up. You can broadcast ready checks out to people. It's fantastic, and it's useful across the spectrum here. It's useful for guild leaders who are doing all the guild mission stuff. It's useful for YouTubers, people like me. When I do streams now, I'll be able to create a squad and everyone will be able to come in, and it'll be easy to ferry people. It's just fantastic. Really, really cool stuff. They did a blog post. That will be the last link in the description. And then finally, there was an episode of Guild Chat. This is the new name for Guild Wars Points of Interest with Ruby. And this described a lot of stuff to do with the new guild system. But there's going to be streams on that pretty much every day as this week goes by. So I'm going to aggregate all that information up and give you guys one awesome, amazing sum up at the end of the week. So there were some great announcements there as well, by the way. But we'll deal with those when we do them. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Let me know what you think about the balance patch changes. Because reading these notes on this this update, it really kind of made me realize my knowledge on the other 8 professions when Heart of Thorns comes out is really waned since the Elite Specialization patch. So much stuff changed, you know, and my knowledge is outdated on a lot of them. So I'm going to have to start really looking into that instead of just playing Elementalist, Burn Guard, and Engineer. But anyway, thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you next time.